So, are you inspired today? Do you struggle with inspiration or keeping the inspiration flowing? I want to share with you in this video three things. I want to share with you my inspiration journey. I want to share with you what I've discovered over the last 60 years to be my own personal four pillars of inspiration. And then I want to share with you a couple of inspiration killers at the end. Hi, this is Old Mike, Old Me, a living better. You know my motto, if you ain't dead, you ain't done. I even got stickers and merch now with that with my slogan, if you ain't dead, you ain't done. You can find my merch store down in the description. So go check that out, all right? So when I was 18 years old, I walked into McCabe's guitar shop in Long Beach, California. I'd bought my first guitar a few months before that. I wasn't very good at it. I was banging away on that thing. And on Saturdays, they would have a jam session at McCabe's. Became a famous hangout for guitarists. This one particular Saturday, I walked into McCabe's and Hoyt Axton was sitting there jamming with everybody. Hoyt Axton at the time was playing at the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach, California. Became famous actor, a wonderful guy, wonderful singer, ballad singer. But I sat there for an hour listening to Hoyt, sharing, talking, jamming. He looked over at me and he said, "Hey, pick up your guitar, get in here." I couldn't believe it. I got my guitar out of the case, I sat down, and I played with Hoyt Axton. So everybody's been asking old Mike to play his guitar. I got my baby Martin here. I think they call it a little Martin now. I'll leave a description in the show notes. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry Michael home. When you get there before I do, coming to carry me home, just tell them there I'm coming to, coming for to carry Michael home. There you go. And I've been playing the guitar since then, since I was 18 years old. I play it almost every single day of my life. Now, I didn't become Hoyt Axton. Now, I did in college. We had a folk group, the Sandy Bay Singers, with a couple of my friends. Travel around Southern California, singing in coffee houses. Gary Lampert, who became sort of famous up in San Jose, leading the choir up there. He was playing a string washboard bass. Vince played the banjo, and I played the guitar. I mean, we had a kick. Now, did we go on and become the Kingston Trio? No, we didn't. But that initial inspiration touched my heart, caused me to go on and do something that every guitarist has to do, and that's build calluses. Now, you can't see them, but at the end of my fingertips, I've got calluses that are 55, 60 years old, and they are thick. Once you develop guitar calluses on your fingers after you've played a year or two, they're going to be there forever, especially if you're picking up the guitar on a regular basis. I've found out that inspiration, what comes along with inspiration is you have to develop the calluses to perfect whatever you were inspired by. For some of us, we have to go to school, we have to find training, we have to pick up the form of art that we're working on, we have to develop the skill. That's building the calluses. But oftentimes we can have life-changing inspiration by one simple event. And there's emotional inspiration. My wife and I were in the Jedediah Smith Redwoods in Northern California many years ago. We had our camper van. We pulled, it was in the off season in the winter, hardly anybody in the park in those days. And we pulled along the side and took our Sheltie dog and walked out into a meadow. Foggy that day, rainy, drizzly, kind of miserable Northern California redwood kind of weather. So we walked about a half a mile and we came across this beautiful meadow. And as we stepped out of the redwoods into the meadow, the clouds opened up and the sun broke down through upon that meadow and bathed my wife and I with the warmth of the sunlight. It was a spiritual moment. It was a moment in nature. It was as if God reached down out of the sky and touched us. We stood there and we just cried. It was a moving moment. It's a moment of inspiration in my life I will never forget. That nature is bigger than I am. God, whoever you think he is, he's bigger than you and I. And in the midst of quietness, he can reach down. The Spirit can reach down. The infinite can reach down. Nature can reach down and touch your heart and bring inspiration. Now that I'm 81 years old, I often think about when I'm down and I'm kind of struggling through things, I will think about the time that my wife and I walked into that meadow. And I'm re-inspired every time. I think about the time in McCabe's guitar shop. I get re-inspired just thinking about it. So there are these times in our life. I encourage you, if you've had any inspirational times like what I'm describing now in your life, write them down, journal them out. I've done that with both of those. But I treasure them as memories and I revisit them in my memory. And I get all inspired all over again. So what about you? What have been some of your inspiring moments? Share with me in the comments where you've been inspired. So now I want to quickly share with you the 4 pillars of inspiration that I've discovered. These are my 4 pillars. You may have 10 or 20. You may have 1 or 2. I hope you have a few. There's a whole list probably. You probably type it into Chat GTP and you get some other answer. But these are what I've walked in. These are my experience. They are read and receive, retreat and refresh, relationship, connect, retool, and adapt. And I want to share with you a resource in each one of these as I go over them quickly. George Martin says, a reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only once. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. Joseph Addison said that. I probably listen to or read anywhere from 4 to 6 books a month, sometimes more, very seldom less. I love Audible. I've got a link down in the description for an Audible account if you want to get one of those. But I sometimes I'm crazy. I'll get a Kindle version, an Audible version, and then I'll get the hardback version or so, So I'm really into books. I love to listen to them, but I also like the feel of a real book. So oftentimes I'll get both. So I'll listen to it, and then I'll go back and read the book to digest the content of a book. One other thing that I do is that I journal the books that I'm reading. The inspiration that I get from reading and listening to books, and also the process of combining that with journaling with my Oxen Pro journal, Got a link for that in the description. So over the years, I've journaled hundreds of books. I can quickly go find the inspiration that I got out of them. Now, again, with AI, go listen to my video on AI if you want to. With AI, you can type in, give me a summary of such and such a book, and they'll give it to you. But AI doesn't have the passion or emotion that you have when you read a book. And I've tested it out. I've gone back into my journals and I've looked at some of the books I've written notes on, and then asked the same question in Chat GTP. It didn't come close to the inspiration that I got from reading it. Don't shortcut reading books by asking an AI program to summarize the book for you. You won't get it that way. The other thing I do, I use my Plod recorder to record a lot of notes and things as I go along the way. Now, the book I want to recommend is a book called Stolen Focus. And I love that book. As a matter of fact, I did a whole video on mind wandering. And in the book, Stolen Focus, the author talks about that sometimes we can get so focused and we're so rigid that we never let our mind wander. And his argument is that the real inspiration and creativity is when our mind wanders. And that's true. A lot of times I'll be doing something and my mind begins to wander. So one side says, well, stay on your focus, you're going to miss out. But the other side goes, follow the rabbit hole. I've discovered in my own life, inspiration is in the rabbit holes. So I let my mind wander a lot. Number 2 of the 4 pillars is retreat and refresh. Mark Black says sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to relax. Deepak Chopra, in the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you. And then the ancient poet Ovid, he wrote this: take rest, a field that has rested gives a bountiful crop. That's why in agriculture, a lot of times they don't plant every year. They let that crop rest. And I need to rest on a regular basis. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about taking vacations. I take retreats every day. I take a retreat after I wake up. I wake up and I go through sort of a routine of getting up, but then I take half hour to an hour as a personal pre-day retreat. I disconnect from technology. A lot of times I just sit and listen. Sometimes I write in my journal. But I love taking personal retreats during the day, during the week. There's all kinds of retreats: silent retreats, nature retreats, digital detox. Another book I want to recommend on this topic is In Praise of Slowness. Oh, I love this book. We get so busy and so strung out in the things that we do. The idea of taking a retreat or taking a break or even stopping to think for a moment or two seems foreign to us. In the book, Praise of Slowness, the author drives home the point that you're going to be more productive when you slow down rather than speeding up. And number 3 of the 4 pillars of creativity for me is relationship and connection. I want to surround myself with people that lift me up and don't tear me down. Can I say that again? I want to surround myself with people that lift me up and don't tear me down. Sometimes that's harder to do than we would think. People tend to be very judgmental, especially for those of us that are creative and we're creating. I don't know about that. So people are always judging us. Abraham Lincoln said, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. Now, that's attributed to him. We're not sure if that really came from him. You see that on a lot of headstones. I love the thought of it. It's not, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. So in terms of relationship, I want to have relationships that add to my life that don't take away from it. Toxic relationships are the absolute worst. So I need to find a tribe. When I was on Facebook, I helped manage a Facebook group for journaling. I love that group. It wasn't a large group, maybe 500, 800 or so, but we were avid journalers. And we shared our journals, and we shared how we journaled, and we showed pictures of our journals. Yeah, I mean, it was really great. The other thing was I joined Urban Sketchers Facebook group. When I was 70 years old, I'm 81 now. When I was 70 years old, I picked up a sketchbook and I saw a little bird sitting out on a patio where we were at a hotel we were at, and I sketched that little bird. And I launched my own sketching career, so to speak. Wasn't a career, but I was inspired by that. Matter of fact, I sent out maybe 200 postcards where I individually sketched a bird on that postcard, wrote a handwritten note, and sent it to someone. I was inspired by that little bird. I was inspired to start sketching. I never was really good. You can see I got a couple of them here you can look at. But I was never really that good, but I enjoyed doing it. I found inspiration in it. And so when I got in this group of other sketchers and drawers, I found inspiration amongst that tribe. McCabe's Guitar Shop, that was a tribe on the Saturday. So I need a family. If it's not my immediate family, I need a tribe somewhere to hang out with. Number 4, retool and repair. 4 pillars of inspiration: retool and repair. William Butler Yeats says, "Do not wait to strike till the iron is hot, but make it hot while striking." Don't sit around. Another quote from Abraham Lincoln: "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." In other words, when there's things in my life, I need to move upon them. Inspiration comes not from sitting down sometimes, but getting busy and moving, continuously learning, adapting to new skills. Now, as I became a YouTube creator 6-7 months ago, started my YouTube channel at 80 years old, I had to learn software programs. I had to learn YouTube Studio, how all of these things work. Whatever it is in life you're doing, if you pick up a paintbrush, you have to learn the mechanics of how paint flows. You have to decide, is it going to be watercolor? Is it going to be oil? Is it going to be acrylics? You need to see how the paint flows over the paper. There's so many things that are involved. So you have to adapt to nurture or build the calluses of your inspiration. You have to be continually adapting, retooling, and growing. The book I want to recommend in this section is The Dip by Seth Godin. I've talked about his book a lot. I think for anybody that's creative or anybody that has inspiration, the book is well worth it because he talks about everything that's worthwhile that we do. We'll start off, we'll be inspired, and then we hit a curve and we begin going down. And it's on the other side of that inspiration that I really need to draw from inside the resources to build the calluses, as I describe it, of inspiration and work through to keep that inspiration going. Lastly, let me talk for just a moment about inspiration killers. I've got 3 of them. A negative self-talk. Oh my word, I can't do it. I could never do that. I get so many YouTube comments on my videos of people that, I could never do that. I'm too scared. I'm this, I'm that. I don't look good enough. I've never been a public speaker. It goes right down. So So what does that do? You're talking yourself out of it. Negative self-talk. Instead of that, I think I could probably do this. I could join Toastmasters. I could take a class. I could do a study. I could probably do this if I took a little bit of time. Negative self-talk is an inspiration killer. The other is being overwhelmed and burned out. I think for YouTube creators especially, and for anybody that's done anything in the arts, we can get burned out with our art. We can get burned out with our creativity. It's an inspiration killer. I think that's why it's important to take breaks, take a retreat. Probably the worst one, and I alluded to it already, is toxic environments. If you're in a toxic relationship, you have a toxic family, toxic neighborhood, whatever it is, run as fast as you can. Oh, well, I don't mean get a divorce necessarily, but I'm saying that you have to work through that. I think it's so important that we understand that when I'm in a toxic situation, and most of us get it, part of it is because we like to control things. I love Mel Robbins' book, Let Me. In her book, she says that I need to let other people simply be themselves. It's a Stoic principle that I can't control other people. I can't even control the environment. I can only control what's under my control. And she makes a really good point. She says, let them and then let me. In other words, I don't enter into, I just let, they get the consequences of whatever they're doing. I'm only responsible for my response to them. So break free from toxic relationships. Otherwise, that really stifles creativity. So I hope this was inspirational for you. It was kind of inspirational for me. I need to understand that inspiration requires calluses. Hope you keep that in mind. Develop some calluses of inspiration today. This is old Mike, old me, living better. If you ain't dead, you ain't done. I hope you're inspired by that. If I can start our YouTube channel at 80, if I can start drawing at 70, imagine what you can do. Be inspired. Do it today, all right?